Hello and welcome to the DJ Force 10 in Conversation podcast, episode 104. My guest this episode is none other than the legendary drummer Alan White. He is of Yes fame. He also played with John Lennon on Imagine. He also played with George Harrison, the Plastic Ono Band, and many, many more projects that he has worked on. And is just about to embark on a world tour with Yes, performing the Relayer album especially for this one, along with their classic hits. But they are hitting some US venues at the end of this month, March. And then they're coming to Europe and the UK in that time after that. So they've got a cruise as well out from Florida. And they're actually hitting one of my old haunts, which is the Ruth Eckerd Hall, which is down in St. Petersburg in Florida. I actually saw Hailstorm before there. I interviewed Nothing More outside of it. And it's a lovely venue. It's right on the marina down in St. Petersburg, right next to the Al Lang Stadium. If you know the area, if you don't, I'm just describing it to you, but look it up. They have a Grand Prix there every year as well. I think it's like Formula 3000 or something. And we had a great chat about that, and obviously the tour coming up, what to expect, and also about working with John Lennon and things like that. Look forward to that. Anything else happened since the last episode? Well, I had a birthday. I turned 40 years old. I'm already going grey. I've already lost a lot of hair on top. So, I didn't know how to feel about it to start with, but now I'm kind of living with it and kind of enjoying it, really. I'll let you know how I feel next episode on that front. But this was recorded a couple of days after my birthday, in fact. So it's a nice little birthday treat to chat to someone of this status. And, the guys at Reload Rock Club, which is one of my new residencies in Guildford, they actually went above and beyond and made me this absolutely amazing cake. It's a DJ controller, but it's chocolate cake inside. It looked awesome and it tasted absolutely amazing. Go check out the pictures on my profile, my Instagram or Facebook profiles. They're all at DJ Force X. That's DJ FORCEX. And go look at that. It looks like a DJ controller initially. I didn't know whether to plug it in or eat it. Turned out eating it, which is the better way to go. We cut it up for the club goers that night. Thank you to everyone that came along, including all my old friends that came in that I hadn't seen in years. Absolutely loved having you guys there. And the people there as well, just dancing, having a good time. Absolutely appreciate that. As a DJ, it's the best thing ever, just to have a dance floor full of people enjoying themselves. Doesn't matter what I was playing. It's just great to have that there, and especially on my birthday celebration evening. Thank you to all the staff at the Star Inn, which is the venue where it is, which is a great pub in Guildford. It's on Quarry Street. It's dog friendly for anyone that wants to go there with their pooch, but they serve great food, and they've got a venue out the back where they have live bands. I've played out there with a few of my previous bands. They have stand-up comedy. They've got the Guildford Fringe Festival coming up as well, where they have all kinds of performance art and things like that going on there. So do check it out. It's a great venue, great place in Guildford to go. It's, like I say, it's a friendly pub, nice and big, and it's in a very old, it's like proper old pub as well. It's got like a log fire and all that kind of stuff, and it's amazing. Thank you to everyone. Lexi's mum especially for making the cake. From what I read, 21 hours went into the making of it, and I can't thank you enough. It was amazing. There's no other words I can really use. Great words like awesome, excellent, superb. All those kind of words just don't do it justice. It was amazing. So thank you. On that note, more thanks, really. Just sort of people who downloaded the previous episode with Derek Green from Sepultura. I know it's a slightly different interview, a slightly different style of band I'm going for there, but the response was great. Thank you to everyone that's been sharing it, putting on their socials, stuff like that. I really appreciate it, because it was a great interview to have. I've been wanting to speak to Sepultura for a long time. Been a fan of theirs since Chaos AD, really, and then Roots came out shortly, a few years after that, and just sort of going on from there. And then when Derek took over, they continued to make quality music, and I've got most of their albums in my collection. And their new album Quadra is amazing, so do go check that out. And that was like I say, greatly received. So thank you for all the messages. And do check out his Highway to Health as well, which is his sort of health, plant-based living lifestyle type television show that he's got going on. And it's worth it. You get some great bits of information from it and all that kind of stuff. So that's all good. And I've got a new podcast coming out soon for those that like their gaming. I'm talking about tabletop gaming. So it's a little bit more of a niche, but I've got one coming out for Gaslands, which is a sort of vehicular battle based tabletop game. It's very easy to get into. You just get yourself some Hot Wheels cars, strap some like mini like weapons to them, glue the wheels, rust them up, make them look like a Mad Max vehicle, and then you just enjoy the game. You can pick up the rulebook for 15 quid on Amazon or through your local gaming shop, and it's great to get into. But once I've got one of those going, I will advertise a bit more on here, and you can go listen to it if you're interested in that side of things. And I know this is a music podcast, so you're probably not. But if you are, let me know, and I'll make sure to notify you when it does go live. It's just part of one of my new projects for the year, along with my album. How am I getting on with that? Well, I'm looking at my album progress board that I put up, and I've picked the covers I'm going to do. One of them I've always wanted to do. In every band that I've been in, I've never had the mass creative control, and I've always suggested it, and I've always been laughed off. So at this point, I'm like, sod it. I'm going to do it. And the other one is something I just sort of heard and like, you know what, that's going to work well. And I'm going to get some friends involved in that one. As for original tracks, I have started work on 2 tracks. I'm sort of laying drums down at the moment with a little bit of bass and just sort of seeing where they go and how they fit together. It's very kind of at the moment... I can't really give it a style, but it's rock, it's metal, but it's going to have that electronic element to it as well. As with the covers, they're going to have a lot of like different styles in that hopefully I'm going to make work and not be too random with them. But yeah, that's sort of coming along. I'll be playing snippets on here once I've got something I'm happy with. So you'll hear like previews, you'll hear the full tracks on here as well eventually. So that's something to sort of look out for the whole year on that front. I do have more interviews kind of penciled in at the moment. I will announce them as and when I have completed them, or if I've got them definitely booked in. So there's plenty to look forward to on the podcast this year. Sort of trying to get... one of my main aims is to get more DJs on here. I have reached out to a few sort of DJs within the rock and metal field, along with some sort of like the classic sort of scratch DJs and stuff like that I'm fans of. So hopefully you'll hear from more of them when I get them booked. I hope to attend a few sort of expos this year in England, and maybe sort of line up some interviews there, because it's sort of a captive area and I can get a decent quality recording rather than going through Skype and things like that, which is nothing wrong with that, because that's how I conducted this interview with Alan White that's coming right up now, because he is based in Seattle. So had the phone call and transferred it through my system here through Skype. So yeah, on that particular note, this is Alan White of Yes. Enjoy. Alan White, thank you very much for joining me.
Pleasure.
No problem. And how are you today?
I'm very good. Just getting on with life here. I'm living in Seattle in the state of Washington, and it's pretty sunny today in the 50s. So it's not too bad.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a bit miserable over here in the UK. So
I heard it was pretty cold over there. Yeah,
it is. I'm in my what I call a studio. It's actually my garage, but but it's very cold in here at the moment. So.
Oh dear. Okay.
That's all good. But yeah, we're here today to talk about your forthcoming tour with Yes, with you at the helm of the drums. You are just about to embark on a couple of dates in the US, and actually hitting one of my old haunts that I used to live over in Florida. So I know the Ruth Eckerd Hall which is your one in Clearwater, St. Pete area.
Oh, yeah. Some very good friends who live there. I like that area.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, the weather's always nice out that way. I'm missing it right now because it is that cold. So
it's not too bad, actually.
Cool.
Anyhow, yeah. Well, I'm sorry you're not in Florida. So.
Me too. But you're also coming over to Europe and to the UK as well.
Yes.
And this is a whole part of the Relayer tour that you're doing, where you're playing that album in its entirety, which I must say is an absolutely fantastic album. One of my favourite tracks of Yes is actually off that album. It's Sound Chase. I love that track.
Yeah.
So.
I know. Well, I love that track too. It's one of the fastest, craziest things we ever did, but a lot of people love it.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. I was just in preparation for this, re-listening to it, and it's the first time I heard the single edit of it, because I've always heard the full version, obviously straight off the original album. But I saw you did a deluxe one or reissue about. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a single edit on there which I'd never heard before, which, I mean, it cuts it a bit short, but it kind of cuts to the chase, if you will.
Yeah. But that track, Sound Chaser in itself, is not a long song. It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a lot of notes in the amount of time it is. No,
definitely. I mean, I was surprised that you could actually cut it down, or the way you've cut it down, on that edit. Because it's one of those things where I can generally edit stuff out, and I've done stuff like edit commercial music and things like that. And that's always pretty straightforward. But I can't imagine actually cutting up a Yes track, something like that. it just feels. I don't know if I could do it.
With Sound Chase, you've got to be able to count to 5.
Yes. Awesome. So, what can your fans expect from the tour? Obviously, you're playing the Relayer album, but you're also playing a lot of your sort of Yes classics. So have you got any sort of surprises for the tour or anything like that?
Well, we're doing a couple of songs. Well, there's one song, we're doing Wondrous Stories. That was actually, I think it was number 1 in England.
Yeah.
We're doing numerous songs like that, and songs that people want to hear us do at concerts usually, everybody won't let us get away with not playing Roundabout. We've tried not to, and we got so many complaints. We had to put it back in there, and Starship Trooper, and songs like Parallels. Quite a few songs that people recognize, and they're just enjoyable to play in a concert situation.
Excellent. And when you're coming to the UK, you're hitting the Royal Albert Hall. Yeah. Which is a fantastic venue.
No, amazing. We've done it before, but it's quite an occasion to play there.
Yeah, I mean, I try and get my hand around it because I've performed in various venues myself. Like I used to be a part of a band and things like that, but. How do you, I mean, obviously you've been doing this for a while, but how do you mentally prepare to play a venue such like that, that has such a history and it is quite, what's the word? Well, for me, it would be quite intimidating, but I was just wondering how you kind of...
Yeah, obviously it's one of those gigs that's very special, so the build-up to it and actually going on stage is more of an occasion, usually is, but even so, I mean, with Yes, it's always great to go on stage, but when you're playing somewhere like that, you've got that whole massive auditorium to deal with out there, and people behind you too, so it's a very interesting place to play.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. It was like, because you do have people literally all around you, and I've seen some bands play sort of like in the middle of an arena, but the sort of playing somewhere like that, you don't have the sort of versatility that an arena has. But no, I was just curious how that was, because it's one of those. I mean, obviously with the rest of the venues on that tour as well, they're quite sort of historic venues.
and people used to tell me that I didn't have a great reputation in the industry for a good sounding place when you're on stage, because you are in the middle of nowhere when you're on stage. But I found it to really, really, really good sounding stage. So, and I just go by my own judgment in that case.
Yeah, no, definitely. You're also doing a cruise that I've noticed as well, just coming out of the US.
Yes.
Yeah, like I was looking at that lineup as well, and there's, I mean, it's anybody who's like anybody on the sort of prog rock circuit playing that show. And I've asked a few musicians that have sort of they're on like the cruise tours and things like that. In fact, actually, I had Jeff on my show recently, Jeff Downs, and he talked about his DBA project, because obviously they just released something as well. And no, we were just talking about like the cruise sort of like atmosphere and how there is obviously very different from playing venues, but you're always surrounded by your fans. And I was wondering how you sort of felt about that.
Oh, we do have a separate part of the boat we can go to have some privacy, especially on this boat. That this time, because it's a bigger boat and we have our own quarters up there, so we can go and come as we choose to mix with the rest of the people on the boat. But in that sense, it's it's always been great. I always go up and talk to people, have a beer with them, and generalize, and then you've always got your own little haven to go back to.
Yeah, oh no, that's good to know, because I've spoken to a few bands. Obviously, they're playing probably smaller boats, and they said it's like, not that they don't mind it, but not having that sort of place to kind of go and unwind for a bit.
But this one's a big boat. It holds, I'm not sure, 3,000 or 4,000 people.
Oh wow!
On this boat, so it's quite sizable. We've been on a cruise on this boat before.
Oh, okay. Excellent. So there was a couple of other things I wanted to chat to you about, if that's all right, sort of away from Yes. As I was doing research before I was sort of preparing for this interview, I didn't know that you played with John Lennon, and you played on Imagine as well, which is like massive. And I was just like, I say curious. I want to know what was that like? How did that become about at that time? I know it's quite a big question, but
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of time involved there. But, I mean, I got to know John because he saw me playing in my band somewhere, and then all of a sudden he called. I get a call, and I'm going to Toronto to play a live piece in Toronto. And then I came back, and I recorded Instant Karma, and then I spent the whole week or 9 days in studio with John, making Imagine, and it was just a wonderful experience. I got to know John pretty well, and the whole way things ran in the Beatles world, and it was very, very enjoyable. It changed my life forever. So quite a great experience.
So what was it like? I mean, I don't know if you can recall it or not, but like sort of getting that phone call from like John Lennon or their people, and what was your initial response?
Well, I think I was a little kind of shocked, but at the same time, I was only 20 years old, and I was a naive musician growing up in the industry, and I thought that was just part of growing up in the music industry in England. But only years later, I realized that what I'd done and what I'd achieved, and then it struck home, kind of thing. So it was really interesting.
Yeah, no, it was just one of those things that I hadn't associated with you until I read it, and I just wanted to know what that was like, because obviously we can't. There's no way of asking John, if you will. So it's just like you being that young as well and getting a call from one of the Beatles. I mean, obviously, I don't know how that would feel. it's just one of those things that you kind of dream of.
I probably don't know how it would feel because I was, the initial phone call, I don't know if you know the story, but a lot of people do. I thought it was a friend of mine playing a joke on me, and I told him to put the phone down on him. And then he called back 5 minutes later and said, "No, this is John, and I want you to come and do your gig. I saw you playing the other night, and it sounds like what I want." So that's how it all really came. When I realized it really was John, that's when I kind of almost fell off my seat. and I just slept very lightly that night and got up and got in a car and went to the airport in the morning and met him in the airport holding tank, as it were, for artists. Got on the plane and then rehearsed on the plane, and then I ended up on stage. It was that quick. The whole thing was a whirlwind.
It's one of those. That's amazing. And it was all recorded. I mean, I live literally down the road from where it was recorded, which is just down the road from Ascot.
Okay.
And
Chisenhurst Park, right?
Yeah. It was just one of those things like I've always associated with the area, but like getting the opportunity to speak to you, someone who was actually part of it, is absolutely amazing. I used to drive there every day in the car and start recording around late morning, lunchtime, and then we'd have dinner in the evening and listen back to what we'd done, and we'd go home and start the same process the next day again. Excellent. That's amazing. I love it. Thank you very much for that. And it's not the only Beatle you work with, as well, as I've also found out as well. You work with George Harrison. Did that come through after working with John? Yes,
George would actually come down to the sessions, and he'd hang around and kind of play on certain things, and then we'd all sit and have dinner together. That's how I got to know George, and what a wonderful person he was. Him and John. It was just great to be in their company, both of them. And then George asked me to play on All Things Must Pass with a whole bunch of other people, which I gladly did. And that took about 3 weeks of going to EMI studios every day. And then, it was just amazing.
Yeah.
All of that.
And I love the fact that it only took your 3 weeks, like some people slave over albums for months, years,
Yeah, well, yes, we take quite a few months to make some albums. Topographic Ocean took 3 months to rehearse and 3 months to record.
Okay.
That's 6 months.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I've got a couple of questions left for you, then I can let you get back to your day, if that's all right. It's quite a heavy question. I say heavy. It might involve some thought, but you might be able to rack them off. But what I'm after is your 3 top albums that kind of made you the musician that you are. What were the ones that really spurred you to become the drummer that you became?
Oh boy, that is a pretty hard question, because I'm a Gemini, and I love all kinds of music, basically, within limits. But I love jazz and I love classical, rock, all of that kind of stuff. And I get affected by lots of different areas of that. One of the albums that musically inspired me a lot was, it was 2 actually. It was Sgt. Pepper's and Pet Sounds were 2 of my favorite albums to kind of play. And the drums on those are pretty normal, but I was more interested in how the drums reacted with the song, and that's why when I was developing my style as a drummer, I always adapted a style of kind of melody in playing the drums, along with rhythmically. And I think that taught me a lot about how to play drums with other people in a band and diverse music. And that's when I started listening to fusion songs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, the album Heavy Weather by Weather Report?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I loved that album. I played it over and over. The slide mix, a kind of style of fusion drumming with, pop drumming or just really good jazz drumming.
Yeah.
So I rolled everything into one parcel and was able to do them all within one style.
No, you can definitely hear that in your style of music. There is a lot of you don't just pin it to, like, a lot of people just pin it to, say, jazz drums or sort of like you say with the fusions kind of things, but you do have that kind of melody with the drums that only a few drummers that I can probably name in a moment, but there's only a few drummers that I know that can do that. And it was yours. The music that you make is one of them. And yeah, no, I absolutely love that style.
I grew up having a great sense of harmony and melodic issues, and a lot of tracks that I did within recording tracks throughout the years is I played with different people in the band. I'd play with the vocals, for instance, on one song, and made the drums react to the vocals, and then I'd play with the guitar and another, and obviously with the bass, you just play with the bass all the time. And I was fortunate to have Chris Squire as the bass player all through that period, and he's one of the best in the world. And since he passed away, he was a very solid man.
Yes. Yeah, no, definitely. So I've got one more question for you, Alan. What are your hobbies away from music? What do you do when you're not drumming?
Well, I'm getting a little older now, so some of them drop by the wayside. But I like boating. I've got a boat
Nice.
on the Puget Sound here in Seattle, and I've very much been interested in boats. I suppose I grew up near the ocean when I was a kid, and I never really lived anywhere that's been away from the ocean. So there's always been that sense in my blood, as it were. And then, scuba diving over the years, I've done that quite a bit. And then I learned to fly a plane at one time, but
Wow.
I never kept up my lessons. But John Anderson in the band in the 70s used to call me Action Man because I was always doing something like that.
That's amazing. Excellent. Well, Alan, thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it. Good luck with your tour, and send my love to Florida.
All right. I will do. We've got a day off in Clearwater, so it should
excellent.
be fun.
Yes, no, it's a lovely place to be. There's a lovely marina down there in St. Petersburg.
Some of the rest are really beautiful.
Yeah. In fact, the venue is right on the marina, to be honest with you as well. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right.
Have fun there. And again, thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thanks very much, man. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.